Deeply rooted within our insecurities and our fears, we subconsciously carry the weight of our emotional baggage, and it shows up when we least expect it to. How do we lessen the load so our luggage is not bursting at its seams? Let's discuss. Today, we welcome the music and mind of Nashville singer-songwriter, country pop singer Sarah Harralson to our afternoon cocktail stage. I'm Amanda Ashley, and this is episode 77, Emotional Healing. Welcome to Afternoon Cocktail. Hey, Miss Sarah Harrelson, are you there?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hey, welcome to Afternoon Cocktail. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, definitely. So what are you going to perform for us?
I'm going to start off with a song that I released last June called Put a Rock on This Rolling Stone.
Perfect. Take it away.
Young and restless, all about the chase. Never had a tie or anyone or any place. Too much Jameson, too many Marlboro
Oh, Sarah. So let's talk about the song. This song is pretty important to you. This song is what really opened up your connection and publishing deal, right? With Busy at Play Publishing.
Yeah, it was one of the songs that I wrote, I think a little bit before I was signed with the publishing company, and the first single I released under the company.
And then, so Busy at Play Publishing is owned by Johnny Garcia, who's actually the lead guitarist for Garth Brooks and
Hmm.
Trisha Yearwood, right? In the
Yes,
past.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, how did the two of you meet? And I mean, what is the most valuable experience you've gained since working with Johnny?
Yeah, it was actually a very funny story how we met. So I think it was back in 2015, so about 5 years ago. And I was riding with my friend Justin at the time. And Justin was from South Texas, where Johnny's from. So they were already riding together, they had that connection. And I was a little bit newer to town, and haven't really wrote at that point with a lot of big people. So I was riding with Justin, and one night he said, I'm going to go write with Johnny at his publishing house on the row in like a week. Do you want to join? And I said, oh, I would love to join. And I was so nervous because I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, I got to bring all these ideas in and be prepared, because it felt like a really big right to me at that time. So that night we went to his publishing house, and I knocked on the door, and Johnny opened it. But the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, I was expecting a different Sarah." He was riding with another Sarah at that time, so he didn't think it was going to be me. So I was worried. I'm like, "Oh no, I screwed up." But he told me to come inside, and we would write anyway. So we wrote the song Radio Static that night, which I ended up putting on my first country EP a little bit down the road. And I hadn't seen Johnny since. So we were already recording Radio Static with my other producer at the time. And then one night I was at an event at BMI on the rooftop, and I saw Johnny there. So I went up to him and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we wrote this song, Radio Static, like a couple years ago. I'm putting it on my EP, so I just wanted to let you know." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I remember." And he said, "If you haven't put lead guitar on it already, I would love to track lead guitar on it." So I loved that, and he ended up tracking guitar on it. And then after that, we set up a few rights to continue a writing relationship, and he asked me to play a few showcases. And it was around that time that I was releasing stuff as an artist, but I was unsure of continuing being an artist and maybe just pursuing my career as a full-time songwriter instead, because I felt like at that point Nashville was so saturated with all these people trying to be country songwriters, and so many beautiful females in town trying to do the same thing. So I felt like it would be better if I pursued my career as a songwriter instead. And so one night I was doing one of Johnny's showcases at the local. And so I played a few songs with him. And then when I got off stage, he told me, if you don't pursue an artist career, you're making one of the biggest mistakes of your life. And that was something that I really took to heart, because I thought to myself, well, this is a big person in town who believes in me when I don't always believe in myself. So I really thought about that. And then I thought about, well, this is something I do want. I do want to be both an artist and a songwriter. So he believes in me, and, I got to start believing in myself. And just having him in my life as a mentor has helped tremendously grow my craft, and just also my confidence as an artist and a writer.
Isn't it amazing the power of one's words?
Yeah.
Like when I hear stories like that, because so often we over it's our fear that kind of holds us back of, like maybe putting too much of ourselves out there and then to not get the end result that we're looking for or looking to achieve.
Sure.
But yeah, having somebody like Johnny, just kind of say that to your face, and to kind of give you that jolt and that wake up that you need,
Mhm.
like, hey, yeah, maybe I can do this. It's that's awesome. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful thing he did for you. Have you ever had the opportunity to meet Garth?
I haven't. I've been to some of his shows and Trisha's shows, but I haven't met him in person yet. But hopefully, sometime after COVID, that'll happen.
Yeah. Maybe someday down the line you'll get a co-write with the big man, right?
Yeah, that would be nice. I'd definitely be nervous.
Yeah, I'm sure anybody would be. Um, let's talk about your background. So you're originally from Knoxville, Tennessee. How
Mhm.
far is Knoxville from Nashville?
It's about 3 hours. I'm more from West Knoxville originally, so about 2.5 from here.
And Knoxville has a pretty good songwriters community, right? I mean, kind of from what I know.
Yeah, it does. I know a lot of country artists are originally from East Tennessee, and Knoxville has the whole Appalachian background in the mountains. So there's definitely a lot of musicians out there and bluegrass musicians, which my granddad was a bluegrass musician too.
So your granddad was a big inspiration to you, huh?
He definitely was. He pursued me to do music.
Yeah, that's awesome. And nobody like your father and mother didn't play any music?
My mom played piano and was a beautiful singer, but my dad and my dad's side has no musical talents whatsoever. So I'm glad I got the genes from my mom's side of the family.
I love it. Yeah. So from Knoxville, you moved to Music City. Was it college that brought you there? You went to Belmont University?
It was, yeah. After high school, I knew I wanted to keep doing music, so I decided to go to Belmont, which was close to home.
And at Belmont, you studied music production and performance?
So I majored in music business with a minor in production. I originally thought about going for performance and songwriting, but then I also thought, well, I do so much of performance and songwriting already, but I want to learn more about the business side of the industry and how to like start producing too.
I think that's so smart for anybody that aspires to do music, just to learn the business end of things. I wish I was more educated on that end. I learned everything business wise on my own, and it's a long haul, so
Yeah.
to have that upper hand, it's really smart. What's it like it's one thing to study music, right? And then it's one thing to actually be thrown in the mix of it, especially in one of the music capital, So what's that contrast look like to you? Like, I mean, learning from people like Johnny and, now pursuing a solo career. I mean, what, what have you learned, on the business end of things just by the act of doing?
I've learned so much, and it's been so helpful as an artist and a songwriter because so many of us, move to Nashville, move to town, and uh, we have a dream of what we want if we're creative, but a lot of us don't really know how much there is to the business side of things and how important it is to know that when you're signing a contract to be an artist and a writer. So there was so much I didn't know that I learned, and even through jobs after college, just learning about contracts and royalties, things that, as creatives, we don't usually think about, but it's so important to know to help our career and to help us financially, especially in a streaming world where, it can be harder to earn a dime now.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And aside from that, it's good to know, so to avoid getting scammed, right? For as many good people and good-hearted people there are out there, there's some slimy ones too, especially in a big city, where they are looking to pry on young, starving artists that are extremely gifted, right?
Right, yeah. And they don't know what they're signing, but they think it's a good deal even when it might not be.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. So your voice reminds me of a cross between Stevie Nicks, Lana Del Rey, I'd say, and definitely Emmylou Harris. Are any of those people an influence to you?
Yeah, I definitely get Stevie Nicks and Emmylou Harris a lot, which I love them both. And what I love about Stevie is just kind of the rasp and lower voice she has. And, I've always been more of an alto rather than a big singer like, Carrie Underwood. So I've always looked to people like her for tone. And other people I look up to are Natalie Maines from The Chicks. I love just her voice sounds so different from anyone else, and her melodies she comes up with as a writer. And I also love Alanis Morissette and Jewel, which they all have their each own individual unique voices, which that's something I always look to be a little bit more unique because I feel like my voice has always been kind of like that.
Yeah, and your voice is definitely unique. And I think the more you grow into your career, you'll realize how much more versatility you have with your voice as you go on. Like I think your latest single that you just released, Frosty, I was mentioning earlier, your voice, your the way you treated your vocals in your recording is sounds a little bit different. At least to me, it does than in your previous recordings. How do you feel your music and your craft has evolved since your earliest releases to your newest?
Yeah, I think for my voice starting out, I always thought I had to push it and try to go higher and higher with the keys to kind of compete against everyone else. And then I realized later on that, well, being unique is a good thing. Like people want to see unique talent in a music town and not just, copycats constantly. So I realized that, well, it's okay to be comfortable in my own voice. And then as far as my songwriting, I think just as I've matured and gotten older, it's been easier to write better songs and get better at my craft at writing too. And I'm all about writing from what you know and message songs too. So that's something I've always loved to write about and release too. So I'm always still learning as an artist and songwriter. So I think I'll always continue to evolve like everyone. But I've just pretty much learned to embrace myself for who I am.
Awesome. And I mean, do you see yourself? I mean, right now you're a country artist. I mean, did you always strive to be a country artist? Like when you were writing songs, keeping country in mind or trying to stick to a certain genre? Or was it more that came along with publishing and just kind of a natural gravitation towards the music and the sound that was being produced?
Mhm. I think before I moved to Nashville, I was writing songs that were more singer-songwriter or pop. I was always someone who loved country, loved pop, loved rock and roll, loved a whole bunch of different genres, but country was always my favorite because I loved the storytelling aspect to it. So I knew country was what I wanted to pursue, but I was having trouble writing at first when I started as a songwriter. So it wasn't really until I moved to Nashville and started co-writing with other people and practiced country songwriting that's when I knew like, okay, well, this is the main thing I want to do, and this is what I feel comfortable doing as an artist.
So, I mean, you've co-written in the past. You actually have a whole album that you released with co-writer Christine Bauer. Can you so and you actually self-produced that album as well, correct?
I did, yeah, I co-produced it with a friend.
That's so awesome. I mean, that experience had to make I mean, you definitely had to experience some growth having had done that. How long did it take you from start to finish to complete that album?
We actually produced it in a short amount of time. So all the songs were written by me and Christine. And I think one day we were writing and we were just saying, we have so many songs that we've written together. And, we just kind of want to do something with these songs for ourselves and maybe do a collaborative project showcasing some of our favorite songs that we've written together so far. So we decided to do the project together and have us both sing on it. But I wanted to also make it a challenge of producing it too, because I had produced some things before, but never taken on a full project like this one. So me and my friend decided to take on the challenge of producing it, and I think it was like recording and producing. It was only like 10 months, so it was a pretty short amount of time for that amount of songs. So there was definitely a lot of sleepless nights trying to finish it, but it was fun because it challenged us to work with different sounds, work with different instrumentation. I learned a lot of different things, a lot of different skills with producing that I had sort of known about before, but I haven't really, practiced it enough or pushed myself enough to do it. So I definitely learned a lot more skills that'll help for producing tracks down the road.
And I mean, would you like to play a bigger role in production in the future? I mean, not even for just yourself, but maybe try producing other artists?
Yeah, I would like to. One something I did a lot more in 2020 was producing songs for other people, in the sense where people could hire me to mix and master their songs, or I'm also on a website where someone can hire me to write a song for them and then produce it. So I did a lot of that last year, which I loved and I definitely love doing. So it's something down the road that I would want to take on a project for another artist.
What do you think about the challenge of maybe doing a genre that's maybe like the complete opposite of country? Is that something you think you'd be up for doing?
Yeah, I think pop is something that I learned more about, that I could try, and definitely something a little more bare boned like folk or Americana. But if it's something with more beats like EDM or R&B, that would be a huge challenge. So I don't know if I'd be able to do that, but maybe we can try.
Yeah, it'd be fun to experiment.
Yeah.
So, so which of your performance experience do you recall as being your fondest and why?
I think one of my favorites was when I finally was able to play the Bluebird Cafe, which was, I think, November 2019. So I was very lucky to be able to play the Bluebird before everything shut down. But it's just one of those performances where it's a smaller room, but it felt more nerve-wracking than any of my other performances, because I'm like, wow, I finally get to play here, and it's everyone's piled on top of each other in a little room, and I barely have room for me and my guitar, but it just felt fun and raw and natural, and that's what I love about the Bluebird and other ride-arounds. It just seems so natural and not forced.
I love those type of environments where you could hear a pin drop,
Yeah.
like and only in Nashville you could really find that. And that's what makes it special to me out there. I mean, most places, at least in New York, I could speak for, like people are always talking or not so focused on the lyrics, like
Mhm.
musicians often get by just by like catchy melodies or but to have those listening rooms where people are listening in for each of those lyrics and looking to get all the feels from those songs, it's special. It's very cool. Now you mentioned rock and roll earlier, and in two of your songs, two of your singles, make reference to it. What kind of rock and roll do you choose to get lost in?
I love all kinds of rock and roll. There's so many, and it's definitely a genre I grew up on too, with my mom always playing it. But some of my favorites have always been artists like Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles, and even a little more modern rock and roll bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers. So I definitely love all sorts.
Yeah, I love Red Hot Chili Peppers too. Yeah, very cool. What type of rock and roll did your mom listen to?
She listened to a lot of the older stuff, like I mentioned, like Fleetwood Mac, Eagles. She always had like oldies stations playing, so all your classic rock and roll.
I love it. My father was always the one listening to music in the house. He was more like, well, he listened to a lot of those same artists,
Hmm.
um, but he'd also listened to a lot of singer-songwriters, and I think that's maybe why that stuck with me throughout my life. But a lot
Hmm.
of Joan Baez and Janis Joplin, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. God, he was always listening to the Beatles. Like all that stuff is like stuck with me to today.
Yeah. John Mellencamp.
John Mellencamp, yeah, definitely. My
Yeah.
dad loved Bruce Springsteen. Ugh, I can't talk. Bruce Springsteen also,
Hmm.
um, Billy Joel. So,
Yeah.
so today's theme is emotional healing. The healing powers of music are undeniable, both as an artist and as a listener. In what ways has music helped you cope throughout the years?
Music has always been like a therapy for me, even when I didn't know it. So, growing up, I didn't have a typical childhood experience. So, I was a little bit more quiet and reserved, and I always bottled my feelings inside. And then, I guess when I was around 10, I kind of self learned that I could write my feelings out in paper, write it out in melodies and songs. So that's why I started songwriting at a young age because it was just a platform that I felt like it was a safe space for me to share my feelings and my thoughts. And I didn't have to share it with anyone else at that time. And it's still very therapeutic for me to get my feelings and thoughts out. And now I'm definitely more open to sharing it with the world because I know a lot of these feelings that I go through are relatable to other people. And I was trying to figure out what my mission statement as an artist was a few years ago, and I realized how healing music is to me and other people. So my mission has always been to heal other people with my music, whatever way that might be.
I love it. I did want to just throw a quick shout out to some of our viewers right now, David Stafford and Tommy Gravino. We're watching. So if you are tuned in live right now and have any questions for Sarah Harrelson or myself, feel free to chime in on the chat and we'll try to get to some of your questions as well. Back to Sarah. So talking more about just elaborating more on emotional healing. What's one thing you realized about yourself throughout this pandemic that has changed your life perspective?
I think that before I was always trying to go non-stop, full throttle, and fit in everything I can in a day, and I was just exhausted, and I didn't realize until everything shut down how exhausted I was actually making myself by doing that. So I just kind of realized more about self-care and that sometimes it's okay to take a break and that you don't have to fit everything all in what cram everything in all one day. You can set a pace for yourself, and you may think that you need to get everything done in a year, but it's going to be okay if you don't, because at the end of the day, having self-care and putting yourself first before exhausting yourself is very important too. So I do miss doing the live shows, but it has been just kind of a nice break to evaluate. Okay, well, what do I need for myself?
It's so true. And I think, I mean, that's one thing I agree with you 100%. That's definitely one thing I've taken from this experience. Like when you're in the music business, no matter how deep you're into it, I feel like there's something in our subconscious that just keeps telling you to keep like go, 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 push, 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 social media posts, everything. Like you got to be on top of everything all the time. And you give yourself little rest, in between to even enjoy the things in life, even though we enjoy so much what we do. It's not
Yeah.
till a pandemic actually hits where you're suddenly, forced to slow down and actually look at life for what it is. There is so much more than just pushing and all this other stuff. good things will come and you could still work hard, but you don't have to push so hard all the time. Um, what have you been doing a lot of live streams throughout
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, I did a lot of live streams, a ton of writing this past year since I haven't been doing shows. So, writing more than ever. I have my own home studio set up in my place. So, I've been recording a lot of music and working on music for other people too.
That's exciting. So do you have plans for like releasing any of this material that you've been writing at any time throughout the year?
Yeah, I'm already going back into the studio to record new singles for this year. So I definitely want to put out more music this year. Hopefully, play some live shows later on this year if possible, and just kind of maintaining self care too.
Before all of this, I mean, you were obviously you were playing lots of shows, but did you have like touring plans canceled or have some really important things that you were looking forward to got a little sidetracked?
I had a lot of paid gigs in and out of town canceled. So that was kind of something I was trying to figure out. Well, I mean, I can do a lot of more writing, but what can I do to fill that supplemental income that I used to get? So that's when I kind of turned to my other skill of producing and focused a little bit more on that.
And you know, what an awesome opportunity to be able to explore that, right? You know, because this is probably stuff that would have been pushed, you know, on or put on the back burner, you know, while you were doing all this stuff. So the fact that you have those skills and you're able to kind of hone in on them and to learn more about it and just kind of have fun with the process of doing it, that's and to make some extra cash. I mean, that's kind of a nice little blessing handed over to you, you know.
Definitely.
Um, how have your past experiences shaped who you are and benefited you as a person?
I think growing up, I didn't have your typical, childhood or family. So my siblings are much older than me, and it was just kind of me and my mom growing up. So I felt like an only child in a sense, and just having that family background, it kind of, and everyone being older than me, it kind of forced me to grow up faster. So I always felt like I was maybe a little bit more mature than my people my age, and I always felt like I was kind of an old soul. So just kind of having that as part of me growing up, it helped me with my craft and writing songs and writing more meaningful content for music and for myself. So while it's a different childhood, I'm grateful for it in the sense that it helped shape me and shaped my craft.
Absolutely. What effect do you wish your music to have on your listeners?
I just want people to kind of take what they need from it. So maybe it's more of a message song, and it's really what they needed, or a happy song to make them happy. So the great thing about music is that it can evoke so many different emotions. So I always wanted my music to be relatable to people, so that way they can take what they need from it.
Great. What about one thing about you that surprises most to come to know? What would that be?
Um, I guess it was like kind of my childhood growing up, and um, people don't really expect my story to be what it is, and they always are surprised when I say how much older my siblings are than me, and my parents. So it's definitely not a typical story that everyone has.
I love it. What 2021 goals do you wish to fulfill?
I hope to play more live shows, but also just continue self care and and also more awareness, because, like you said, so many of us were going full throttle, but not really being aware of our surroundings or taking in each day and be appreciative of what we're given. So definitely more appreciation and awareness for the year.
All this self-care, I mean, has it brought you to a deeper place? I mean, do you feel like you know yourself better because you've been taking the time to care for yourself throughout this pandemic?
I think so. I think back and I'm like, wow, I really just wasn't really paying attention to myself, more about what I was doing or wanted to do, more about the future. So it has grounded me to be more in the present and just focus on myself and focus on others and remaining calm and remaining in the present.
That's awesome. Good for you. Hey, so if someone were to hand you your dream performance, what would that look like?
It would probably be on the Grand Ole Opry stage. I think every country artist wants to play there.
Sure, of course, right? I remember just putting my 2 feet in there and snapping a picture, and it's such a magical stage. It really
It
is.
is.
Like, just to look out, it's very cool.
Mhm.
What about to open for anybody? Who would that be?
I would love to open for, I love Natalie Maines from the Chicks, so they would be a top contender, and even even Miranda Lambert. I love her style. So
I love Miranda Lambert too.
mm,
It's funny. I never really listened much to her in the past, and then one of my guitar students, Maddie, she years ago, she was Miranda Lambert was like top notch for her. She wanted to learn all her songs. So I started listening to her, and The House That Built Me, like she really wanted to learn that song. So I put on the video and I'm like, let's figure out the chords. I put on the video and I was just like crying. I was like, oh my God, this song, like just it touched me, because it made me think of home and just growing throughout the years, and what home means to me now, and that song, and my respect for her was just through the roof from that point
mm,
on. She's amazing.
yeah.
Um, if you could give any message, if you could send any positive reinforcement to those out there, what message would you like to relay to them?
Yeah, I guess just right now we all feel like grateful for a new year, but at the same time, things pretty much feel the same and not really different. So just keep positive. I know it can be hard to force yourself into positive thinking, but if we just kind of stay in the present instead of worrying about the future and be grateful for everything we have right now, I think that can just help you keep positive thinking throughout each day. So it takes practice to remain positive, but just be grateful. And if there's something that you want to do, that you want to accomplish, see what you need to do to accomplish it, see what tools you have to get there.
So awesome, Sarah. Thank you for the privilege and having this opportunity to sit with you and to pick your brain and ask you all these questions. Where can our audience be directed to your music and learn more about you and download all your songs?
Yeah, you can find me on social media just through Sarah Harrelson, and I have a website too, and YouTube. So if you type in my name, I think I'm the only one with the spelling, so you should be able to find me.
Love it. What song are you going to close us out with?
I'm gonna close out with "Get Lost" and some rock and roll.
Yay, my favorite. Awesome. Take it away.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Let's head down, down to forever, where the blacktop turns into gravel. Put it in park, let the midnight call. Turn it up, let's get it on. Let's get caught up in this song. South of the city, right at the edge of the static. We're at the Hotel California all night long. And boy, I wanna hold you the rest of my love. I
Beautiful, Sarah. Thanks so much for sharing your music with us today, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you
So,
so much.
oh yeah, such a pleasure, truly. Packing and put away laundry are in the top two of my least favorite things to do. I'm notorious for overpacking. Any morning before leaving for a trip, I can guarantee you'll find me sitting on top of my suitcase, struggling with the zipper. I realize that the reasoning for this may be that I fear not having the things I love and need always within my reach. What triggers us to feel negative feelings, to hold grudges, to carry out with the hurt, we carry as extra baggage in our subconscious. It's not until a confrontation arrives or the unexpected occurs that we again are reminded of the past trauma that lives within. So, how do we pack lighter and make peace with accepting the knowledge our journey has brought us? There are two things that I've come to know. One, understanding who and what triggers a negative response. Begin letting go of the people and the things that no longer positively serve you. Because, and truth is, there's a lot in our lives that we can actually live without. Number two, recognizing what you need more of. Find ways of incorporating more of what brings you joy into your daily routines. Decide where you can multitask and store that extra time away for the other activities that are more important to you. Making time for you is essential for your well being. Embrace your internal needs rather than those needs that are surface. You see, packing and putting away are difficult, but we do it all the time anyway. We all carry a little extra something that's heavy that we can live without. Your bag no longer needs to be bursting at its seams. So pack a little less and lessen the load. Find emotional healing in learning from your past and in finding growth and change. Your happiness depends on you, and it's time to find it. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode. Afternoon Cocktail is now available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all podcasting networks. Huge thank you always to Beau Productions, and shout out to James Farley of Northwestern Mutual and to Maiden Voyage Studios. Thank you to today's show sponsors, Rochester Woman Online, Bridget Hogue at Empire Realty, Chris Sirianni at IT Insights Rochester, and Blades Events and Catering. We'll be back here this Friday with a brand new episode. I hope you guys have a beautiful hump day. See you next time.